Come on in, family. We're high stepping. Yep, we're high stepping into this new dimension. And we got more information to share tonight that's going to assist you and all of us into stepping even higher. Come on in. High stepping into the new dispensation, the new age, the new terrain. Hey, peaceful queen, you ready? I'm ready too. Hey, AC, we ready. So I hope you guys got your tickets for Saturday. We do have a few left. However, by this time tomorrow, we probably will be closing it out. Hi, Coffee. Welcome. Welcome, everybody. We high stepping. Okay, it's 8:01. Good evening, Reverend Tia. We high stepping. Go, okay. Welcome, Serenity. So, Janice, let's go on with our video, the beautiful video that you made, inviting everybody to the gala on Saturday. That's how we're going to start out tonight. All right, are you ready? Come on, we got the best cater. We have the best music. We really do. And bring your dancing shoes because it's time to dance and have a good time and just celebrate, not just TLC, but yourself, this new life, this new dispensation we're all moving in. If you want more information, go to our website, transforminglovecommunity.com. transforminglovecommunity.com. Everything is there. All information about our classes. We have a prayer class coming up. All information about our webinars, everything. Go to transforminglovecommunity.com. Now, I'm excited. I've been waiting a while for this. And you all know I've already confessed that I have been in hiding because I didn't want people to attack me. I've had expansive thoughts for a very long time. And I know that because we are moving into this new dispensation, people are ready for new information. We are realizing now more than ever before, we really have been bamboozled, as Malcolm said. We have been lied to. And I don't know who said this, but I know the saying is when truth that's crushed to the ground will rise up. And I believe with all my heart that this is what's going on now, that the truth that we need and know really in our souls, it's coming forward right now. And so I want to start with this. When we were born, when we came here through our mother's womb, we came here with a blueprint. However, most people don't know that. And I'm getting ready to tell you the reason why most people don't know that. When Constantine the Great, you can write that name down and research it. For anything that's said, I think it's really good to search things out for yourself. You don't have to take my word for it. You don't have to take anybody's word for it. Constantine the Great, he's the person who decided that Christianity would be the main religion. And he was in Rome at that time. And he got the guys together. It was a few men. And let me just say, it was a few white men who made a decision on what would be kept in this thing we call the Bible, the Hebrew and Greek scripts. He made a decision what would be taken out. He made a decision what books would be taken out. Did you know that there's some books that were taken out? So there were many decisions made at this meeting that they had, the Nicene Council, look it up. And one of the things that they took out was astrology. Did you know that the wise men were astrologers? They were stargazers. They were astrologers. That's why they knew the time that Yeshua, because we do know that they weren't even using a J in that language, in that culture at the time. Yeshua's birth, it came about, and it was the astrologers that knew, and it was the astrologers, the three wise men that came. And so I'm saying this that because it does upset me from time to time, especially knowing how important it is to know yourself. And our guest tonight has been to Egypt, and she knows firsthand that the writings on those temples say, know yourself, because when you know you know the world, and your world is inside of that blueprint. So tonight, I'm going to go ahead and just say a few things about our guest tonight. I've known her for a couple years now, and she has a master's in spiritual psychology. That's not the most important thing, though, to me. I love Monique Ruffin because she's authentic, she's real, she's sincere, and she knows what she's talking about. And she's on a mission. She's on a mission to help melanated people, sisters and brothers, for us to awaken to our true selves so that we can live and have a better life. That's really what she's about. And so, without further ado, with much deep love and much deep respect and honor, I present to you Moon Mama. That's one of her other names. I present to you Monique Ruffin, Moon Mama. Welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Shaheerah. So good to be here today. I'm so grateful to be here with your community or the community that you are in service to. So thank you very
Yes,
much.
yes.
Um,
So, go ahead. You can start or I can start. It doesn't
you,
matter.
you start. Go ahead because go ahead.
Well, I've been saying that, when I found out about the North Nodes, which I found out in 2000, I really realized even more the importance of people knowing their blueprint, because
Hmm.
I know that that tells us about why we're here
Yes,
and gives us a view of what we've done in our past lives.
yes.
We could start there. And then
Okay.
I just want you to talk about the importance in your view of why you feel it's important and maybe how you came into this, because I don't even know that.
Okay, great. Well, like I said, thank you so much. I'm so grateful to be here. Good evening to all of you. This is one of my most favorite things to do. My most favorite topic to talk about is healing and transformation in the Black body. And my most favorite way to do that is through us remembering who we are. And the tool that the universe, spirit, God, whatever you call your source, brought to me was astrology. And how I got into astrology is that I have been a seeker all of my life. I was born into a family that was deeply religious, like many of us. You know, my grandmother was the daughter of a preacher, and so we were in church all the time. It was just, I was in church Wednesdays and Sundays, and I mean, it was just a constant thing, right? I don't remember not being in church. um and and I remember when my grandmother told me about Jesus. I remember it. And I remember because I was always a very curious child, and I used to have these experiences that I know now as what we will call supernatural. I used to be able to feel energetic beings around me when I was going to sleep at night. I could feel these beings lifting me up. And that went on until I was about 12 years old. But when I was little, my grandmother started teaching me about Jesus. And that was peculiar to me because it was almost like she was telling me that I didn't have to, she was like letting me off the hook. And I remember thinking, well, if Jesus has already done it, then there's nothing for me to do here. And I was a very little girl. And I stayed in Christianity until I was in my 20s. My grandmother died when I was 21, and that's when I left Christianity and started really studying. And I went into religious science. I studied religious science. I studied Buddhism. I studied Hinduism. I just studied because, like I said, I was a seeker, and I had a real passion to know God. Like there was nothing to me that seemed more interesting than God. And that even showed up for me in my relationship when I was a Christian, because I was very interested in Jesus being able to do miracles, because that's what, as a child, that was the thing that was compelling to me, being able to do miraculous things. It just so happened that I was living in an environment. I was born in the late 60s, early 70s, when Black people were really going through it. And I lived in Watts in Los Angeles. And so, I lived through the gang experience. I lived through the crack experience. I lived through all of these things. And as someone who was very curious, I was empathic and I could feel the suffering of my people. And my
Yes.
grandmother was very she always gave me books to read. So I was reading Paul Laurence Dunbar and all of the great Black poets, and everything. I don't know if you guys remember this, but everything in the 50s, 60s, and 70s that Black people wrote was about our suffering.
Yeah, because that's we were suffering.
That's right. That everything was about that. And so, I remember looking through books and seeing the picture of the Black man with the whips on his back. And I remember looking, seeing pictures of Black people hanging. It was just all around me. And I was I was I couldn't take my eyes away from it. I could not take my eyes away from it. So then I went to Howard University in DC and studied history, American history, and again back in the libraries, the Library of Congress, studying Black people, because that was the thing that I needed. Why are we suffering so much?
Yes.
How is it that we are suffering so much? I just couldn't understand it. And so finally, in about, um, I think when I was probably about 15 years ago, I I heard the voice inside of me say, "Make your Blackness your spiritual journey."
Hmm.
And that was really interesting to me. Like walk this experience in this Black woman's body at this time on the planet, in this country. walk it as a spiritual journey and not as a curse, not as a sickness, not as a disability, but as an opportunity to use it to really become who you're meant to be. And that changed my life. That absolutely changed my life. And so I started studying religious science and really learning how to use the mind and what is the body and what is this spiritual connection and what is the connection to God and what is the universe. And then that's when astrology fell into my lap. After I had studied psychology, like I gotten a master's in psychology and studied at Howard, I was starting to see clients and I was feeling like this isn't it. Like I can't, like I couldn't, people weren't really moving energetically in the way that I felt like they should be able to move. And did some prayer work and realized that astrology was the key. Astrology fell into my lap. And how I got to astrology, I used to write, I was a blogger, and the editor at the blog company came to me and said, I know you like astrology. Would you write astrology blogs? And I was like, but I'm not an astrologer. And she said, well, maybe you can learn. And this was before astrology really got popular because astrology is very popular now.
Yes.
It's becoming very mainstream. It was not. This was, you think 10 years ago, people, and not that the people aren't still saying it's of the devil or whatever, but now we're starting to realize that astrology is all through the Bible. And the thing that I learned that really helped me remember who I was as a child before my grandmother told me about Jesus was when I started studying astrology, what I started to realize was that the story of Jesus had literally been usurped from the story of Horus, which is the Egyptian god, and the son of Osiris and or Asar and Aset, which is the father and the mother, and then Horus is Jesus. And this is a story about the sun, the literal sun.
Yes.
And all of these human narratives have been placed over it. Um, so we live in a cosmic universe, an energetic universe, and the sun and the moon and all the planets are really a clock. That's what this is. This is a big clock that we're in. And the sun is keeping time. It keeps the annual time, and the moon keeps the daily time, the monthly time. As women, we have a moon cycle, right? Or we have a menstrual cycle every 28 days, and the moon moves around the earth every 28 days. And as it does that, its gravitational pull magnetizes the water. So you see the tides and all of that go up and down. That is also the energy that's pulling your reproductive system that causes you to bleed once a month. And
Yes.
because you are connected to the creative power of the earth realm and it's in your body. And so when I started studying, I realized like the first thing was like, oh, this story about Jesus was really just taken from ancient people. And it's not just ancient Egyptian people. The stories in Hindi are also about the sun. The stories in the Middle East are also about the sun. They have just given it, they needed to make it because there were times when people didn't read, you all. And so they needed to be able to pass these stories down in ways that were simple for people. So they gave it a human context to make it palatable for people to take it in. And if you think of that game that we used to play as children, when you would give somebody a sentence and whisper it in their ear, and then they would pass it to the next person, whispered in their ear, and it goes through the entire crowd until the very last person says it out loud. And then you see what has happened because the human perception has been placed on things. So
Yeah.
really, the stories that we are learning about Jesus now are truly just stories about astronomy. And
Yes.
they've been given human narratives, names, so that it was accessible for humans who weren't as educated, because there was a time when there were no computers, y'all. There was a time when there were no cell phones. There was a time when there were no libraries for people to go to. There was a time when there were not resources available for people to really access the wisdom. And so who they went to were the holy people. They had all the information. They went to the priest and the priestess, and they were the ones who taught. So at some point, that stuff became corrupted because money got involved. There was a time when you literally didn't have to pay anybody anything for the wisdom and the knowledge to remember who you were. But as greed kicks in and the patriarchy came along, then it became this experience, this story about Jesus, which really just externalized it. It gave us this idea that God is outside of us. And that was the downfall of humanity.
Wow. Yes.
Just believing that God exists outside of us. And the things that I have learned in the past decade or so are they're complex. They're complex. They sound crazy, but the reality is that this is an energetic system, and we are energetic beings, and the external world is what we project from our internal reality. All of this external world, the house you live in, all of that is what comes out of somebody's mind, and we create it, but it is not, it's only 10% of who we are. We are spiritual beings, and we say that all the time. We're spiritual beings having a human experience, but yet we put more focus on our human experience rather than our spiritual beingness.
Yes. Yes.
And that is
Yes.
where we get lost, because we seek God outside of us. We seek our connection to the divine in this mental way when we don't understand that God is really, 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 really inside of you. And you really cannot find God outside of you. You once
Oh,
And once you
hey.
go inside and really become acquainted with this thing, like people go, well, what does that mean? What does it mean that God is inside of you? God is in every single cell that you have. God is your breath. God is your ears, everything you hear. God is your thoughts. God is your feelings. God is your organs. God is your heart. God is your feet. Like, you cannot separate yourself from the divine. But most of us believe that from a theoretical perspective. So, because if you really understood that you were God, you would treat yourself better.
Yes. Yes.
You would treat yourself better. And the work at this time is, the beautiful thing that astrology has helped me understand is that the world that we're in now is not a mistake. It's not a mistake. We are in something called the Kali Yuga, and we live through what I want to say. We live through ages, like, right. So Dr. Shaheerah is saying we're moving into the age of dispensation, right? So we live through ages, and we have been in the age of Pisces, which is also associated with the dark ages, meaning that our relationship to the light and the sun, the earth's rotational um, cycle, in connection to how the light of the sun is in geographical location to us. So we have not been able to perceive light. So we feel like, and we think we are separate. Because we're not able, because of the location to the earth to the sun right now, we are not as sensitive to the energy because
Okay.
this is an energetic system. So now we're moving into another age, the age of Aquarius, where and these ages go like 24,000 years, right? So
Yeah.
we are only 300 years away from the fulfillment of the age of Aquarius. And even though that might sound like a lot, but it's the earth doesn't do time in the way we do it in our minds. 300
Yes.
years is like 3 days. You know what I mean?
Okay.
We're already there. Really, we already are. And what that means is that there are human beings who are already beginning to embody the age of Aquarius because it is a consciousness thing.
Yes.
It is about your mind and your connection to yourself and your understanding of your oneness with the supreme being in you. So, what I'm saying is that, we have 7 billion people on the planet. People are starting to get this. And so, but when 300 years comes, we'll be fully in a new age. And that age will last 24,000 years, and then we'll go to another age, right? But right now, and it's all based on the Earth's geographical location and spin in relationship to the sun and how the light how we're interacting with the light. Now, here's the thing. Melanated beings are the first line of connection to the sun. The melanin in you is your portal, and your melanin absorbs light. And so, one of the things, we live in this very tricky world where people, they're telling you to put sunscreen on, and they're telling you, we eat all these fast foods. All of those things create a resistance to our ability to ascend, to put to bring in the light, to absorb the light, because you have to become, there's this story in the Bible about how Jesus talked about you can't put new wine in old wine skins, right?
Yes.
So now
Hmm.
we have this new light coming in because the sun's light is starting to get stronger, and everybody's talking about, you know, global warming. None of that. Look, the earth is going through something that is completely natural.
Yes.
Are we, is what we're doing difficult for the earth? I don't know. Like, she can get rid of us if she needs to.
It
What
has happened before.
That's right. 5 times. Five
Yeah.
times the earth has reset itself. So, but this time we are, because we're moving into the golden age, we're here, we have the bodies and the systems to upgrade ourselves. But this is the inner work, and you have to do the work yourself. Nobody can do it for you. The Christ consciousness is in you. And what I have learned is the easiest way to do it is through understanding your astrology, because that
Yes.
is the blueprint for who you are. The time of your birth, where you were born, the time of your birth, where you were born, and the day, and the day, right? So
Let me
this,
ask you something, Monique. If
yeah,
if a person doesn't have their time, do you do like what they call
yes,
rectifying it?
yes.
Okay. So
If they don't have it,
they can still connect with you if they don't have their time, right?
yes, I can
Okay.
rectify it. Absolutely. And that
Okay.
takes a little, takes, I need about 30 minutes to do that. But
Yeah.
it's absolutely. But the thing is, it's about understanding that at the time that you were born, the universe took a snapshot of your blueprint, and where the sun was determines how you're going to express your personality. Where the moon was determines your relationship to your inner world and your mother. Where these planets, Saturn and Mars, it all of that is a code, like your computer runs on software and it knows what to do. This this natal chart is a code for who you are, and it is influenced by your environment, but your environment cannot take that first seed away from you. And what I'm saying is that many of us at this time on the planet, what we have to do is begin to Like Jesus said, you can't put new wine in old wineskins. We have to begin to renew our own wine skins, right? You have to renew your mind. And what do
Yes.
I mean, renew your mind? As Black people, I'll just speak for myself. I have all many narratives because I've been studying racism and slavery all my life. I have all these narratives about this world and who it ain't and who white people are. And we when we're around one another, you know how we can do. They did this and they did that, and that is an old mindset that will keep us stuck in this reality of this experience in America. I think one of the most profound things that I have learned studying astrology is that um, it's not a mistake that we have gone through the things that we've gone through. It's not a mistake. When I first started studying, Spirit would say to me, go look in nature and find the things in nature that endure the most pressure and see what they are. Diamonds. But what we have to understand is that these experiences happen to make us into who we're meant to be.
Yes.
This experience has not happened to punish us. This experience is happening to make us into the gods and goddesses that we are meant to be. And you cannot be made in the image and likeness of God and be spiritually weak. You cannot. The two don't go together. You cannot be somebody who is capable of doing miraculous things without going through things that force you to grow and expand. Like who we are, like what our ancestors endured crossing the Atlantic, what our ancestors endured in 250 years of captivity, what our ancestors endured for 150 years of torture after that makes us the most resilient, impeccable.
Resilient. Resilient.
Yes,
Yay.
like it make what these experiences make us is a perfect vessel for the power of God.
I
And
love that. I love that.
it's really the truth. And we have to believe it. And let me say that it's not a walk for the faint of heart. It is not. But our ancestors did what they did to get us here. And if we can't do our part, look at what they did to get us here. Do you understand what they did? I mean, they crossed the ocean, for months and sitting in, urine and poop and blood. The women for 250 years dealt with rapes and brutalization. Men did too. Like you have to
Yes.
understand the nature. Like sometimes I'm sad that I studied so much, but if you understand what we endured, I was studying about a month or so ago about plantations and learned something that I did not know, that there was a plantation in Texas that had 2,000 slaves. That was the most amount of slaves on one plantation in Texas. And most of them were the slave master's children.
Wow.
So he was just reproducing with the women and creating more money that were his children.
Yes.
So we built this country. We created the cotton industry, we created the rice industry, we all of that. Not only so the people who owned slaves were the richest people in the world, not just
Yes.
because of free labor, but because we are valuable and creative. We didn't just do labor, we created industries that then supported this country in becoming what it is today. It would not
Yes.
be what it was. I mean, when you think about the things that we created, because we are so creative, without these things, the whole world will be a different world. It's not just America that has benefited from it. Britain would have collapsed ages ago if it were not for what we were doing here in America that was supporting Britain. And also, not just America, but the Caribbean, all like free labor. Like, we literally generated a whole new world through our industry, through our creative. Exactly. And now we are here, and we are still here. And
Yes.
there have been all sorts of things about they're nobody's trying to kill us, because no one will exist without us. So no one's trying to kill us. They're just attempting to keep us oppressed, so we don't have the time and the energy to get focused enough to heal ourselves, so that we can really become who we're meant to be. So, um I don't know. You have a question? Does anybody have a question?
I'm sure they do. I'm just over here breathing, wondering if I need to get an oxygen machine somewhere. Because this is how the truth does me. It just, it's wowing me,
Yeah.
and in the way that you're putting it together, that's so important for us to hear it.
Yes.
If you
Yeah.
guys have questions, put them in the chat and I'll pass them on.
Um. So, astrology. Astrology changed my life, because before I started studying my natal chart, I was on the path that every woman was on, because I was taught you should get married, you should have a child. I was a part of the generation also, you should get an education. So I got an education, but the education was really secondary to my pursuit of love and romance. And
Yes.
I was really suffering in that arena. I just couldn't seem to get it right, and I was having a lot of pain around it. And then when I started really understanding that, I started understanding epigenetics, and that I was carrying the suffering of my great. So grandmother. I have a grandmother who was the product of my great grandmother being raped working in a house in Mississippi by a white man. And then my grandfather witnessed his father be shot in Alabama. So just all of this suffering in my family. And when I started studying epigenetics, I realized that as Black people, we're carrying trauma upon trauma upon trauma. We are, we really are like little safes. You know what I mean? Like a safe that you put your money in. We are energetic safes, and we carry genetically the traumas of our foreparents. And what I discovered was that the trauma keeps us heavy and weighed down. That
Yes.
shows up as health challenges, relationship challenges, financial challenges, but it's because we're in a system that is unnatural to us.
Yes. Yes.
We are not really made to function this way. We're made to be much more anchored in nature. And I'm not saying we're supposed to be living in trees or things like that. What I'm saying is that nature has cycles that are natural, and we are meant to live according to nature's cycles. But in this country, we live according to the capitalistic cycles.
Exactly.
And what happens is our energy gets so externalized with, I got to pay this bill, what they doing, what they saying, how much money they got. All of our energy is so external that we are not doing the work to cultivate our spiritual power. And what does spiritual power look like? It looks like being intuitive. It looks like being connected to the voice of God within you, and being able to hear, do this and do that, like literally being tapped in. It looks like it looks like being able to heal, like being able to use energy to heal your body. It looks like knowing your body enough to know how to heal your body. Like recently I've been going through some digestive things, and I know what herbs to use. I haven't taken a Tylenol in probably 17 years. I don't go to doctors. I don't any of that kind of stuff, because the medicine is here through herbs and through energetic learning how to think correctly, learning how to eat correctly, learning how to deeply love yourself. And what Christianity did is that it split us off from ourselves because it gave us this idea that there is a devil.
Yeah, that part.
And when I tell you, so the savior and devil part is the greatest challenge that I see in us as Black people, because we are, those narratives planted fear inside of us.
Yeah.
So many of us are afraid of our own power. All of us have gifts and abilities. We just have been told that's demonic. That's so you cut off from yourself and you're not able to really access your power. You're not able to love yourself. We carry shame because we've been in this system that has us competitive, and you know everything in this country is upside down. Everything.
Yes.
There's
Yes.
not anything here that is aligned to what I would call God. Just the simple things, you guys, like a man and a wife. That's really not biblical. Like you're not to align your energy to somebody else and subordinate yourself. We're not to subordinate ourselves to other human beings, whether it be a husband, a father, a minister. You are God yourself. So when you subordinate yourself to another human being, you cut off your power. And how do we do it? We subordinate ourselves. And I'm going to say this, and I mean this with love, and everybody can take it into prayer. When we go vote in these elections and we're giving our power to somebody to dominate our reality, to protect us, that's making that person God in some way. And I know this America, and that's a hard thing to hear. Like, I grew up in a house where we were like, if you Black, you gotta vote. Like, and I understand. I ain't mad at it. I'm just saying that when you understand energy and how it works, you are not to give your energy to somebody else, because nobody can do for you the only things you can do for yourself. It's not possible. So, but when you assign your power to someone else, you no longer have it. So
That's true.
you no longer have it. So then you can't use it to heal yourself. You can't use it to protect your children. You can't use it to create abundance in your family. You can't use it because you have siphoned it out with this idea that you got to go work for some, and nothing is, I'm just talking about how we misuse our power unknowingly,
Yes.
unconsciously. And so the journey back home is an inward journey. The journey back home is an inward journey, and it's not an all or nothing kind of thing, because we can do all the things we do in this world, but we cannot be of this world. We have to know that we're just in this world playing the game of the world as a god,
Woo! I love it.
as an
Yes.
thing. And
Yes.
so
In
it
it, but not of it. In it,
that's
but not
right.
of it.
That's right. That's right. And so that's challenging when you work 40, 50 hours a week and your time is not yours. You have to really begin to do things that feel good to you. If you love your job and you love the stuff you do, then by all means stay in it. But if it is sucking the life out of you, if you are not healthy, if you have emotional challenges, that is because you are in environments that are depleting your energetic system.
Yes.
You are in relationships that are that are depleting your energetic system. When I started learning astrology, and like I said, I have been taught as a woman to really want marriage, and I sat down with an astrologer, and he said, every person comes, and the first thing they want to know is, tell me about relationships. Everybody wants to know that. I get it. I get it. And I said that to him, and he said, well, you have an Aries North node, so that means that relationship is not your path this lifetime. I laid on the floor for 3 days. I was I I was like, well, I it's because I didn't know who I would be without that pursuit.
That conditioning, that's what
Yes,
I call it. We
that's
conditioned. We
right.
were conditioned for that.
That's right. So at some point I just picked myself up and was like, okay, well we're gonna start where we are, and
And I just want to interject there too, because I got that too, that Aries North
Mhm.
Node. We can have relationships, however, not until we really learn how to love ourselves.
That's
And
right.
that's what I'm dealing with at the age that I'm at right now, is what
Yeah,
I'm dealing with, because all of my life, it's been about other people.
that's right. That's right. And what that looks like is making other people happy, caring about what other people think, trying to keep up
People
with the
pleasing.
that's right, people pleasing, codependent. Like, and I'm a 55-year-old woman, and I mean this in a loving way. Like, I don't have parents, and I'm really grateful because I see people my age tied up in what their parents think about them. And to be this grown, caring about what your parents think about what you do is depleting your energy system.
Yes.
This is not about making people bad or anything, because we're all in this together and we're all learning. But what's the most important thing you have is energy. And so if you're using your energy to be on display, to seem like you're okay, or to do things that you got to do just for money, or to keep up with, caring about what other people think, if you're using your energy that way, you are siphoning your life force, because your energy is here for you to be your God self. And and the last thing I'll say is the system that we're in is ending. If you guys haven't noticed, America is on a fast ride down to the bottom. You know what I mean? It's America, the system, right? But the more of us that wake up, because we built this country, the more of us that wake up and remember who we are, energy doesn't die, it just transfers. So the energy has to come back to where it started. And who did it start with? Black women. It started with us. So that's why you have to create new wine skins so that you can receive the new energy. And it is a real new energy. It is new light coming from the sun. If you ever want to do some research what's happening with the sun, all these solar flares. Look at the temperatures, the weather, all that is the sun. The sun creates the gravitational pull here, and it is making us up level. And because the light just comes in stronger, so we're starting to see things that we can never see before. Things are starting to be revealed that were never because the light, and humans are evolving. It's normal, it's meant for us to evolve, but you have to make space. You have to let go of your behaviors that keep you anchored in the shadow, that keep you depressed, sad, divided from yourself. You have to let go of those behaviors. You have to let go of relationships where you're anchored in people pleasing and codependence. And it's not about letting go of the people, it's about shifting the mindset that thinks that you have to care about what somebody thinks about you.
That part.
It's that simple.
Yeah. And that's big.
It
Uh-huh.
is. It's
Yeah.
really big. So it's not about letting go of the people, but it's about adjusting the mindset, transforming the mind into a new way of thinking where you love yourself so much and you are so willing to love yourself that you are not abandoning yourself for the approval of others. It's the
And
second.
now, because the North Node is in Aries, would you say that everybody needs to be on that step right now
Yes,
with that
yes.
energy?
Yes, for the next 16 months, everyone should be focusing on themselves. And it just really means simple ways, right? Like somebody asks you to do something, you say no, let me think about it, and go see. Don't just say yes for the sake of saying yes. You should be doing things that really build your own identity, things you love, things you care about, things that feel good to you. Think like that is how that will be the best way for you to be using your life right now. You know, and so that's been like I had a friendship that was from 15, I had a friendship that was from 11 to 51 years old. We were 40 years old, 40-year friendship. I started doing my work and the relationship had to end because we were too entangled.
Yeah,
We were 50
I
years
get
old
it.
calling each other best friend. And women have a tendency to do that. We can just entangle with one another. So I had to release the entanglements because I wasn't being true to myself. How many times you're like, oh, I'm not going to do that because my girlfriend will think this, or my girlfriends, when I moved in with somebody, they're like, you can't live with somebody. That's a sin. And I made a choice about my life because somebody thought I was being sinful. I paid a high price for that one. So those are the things that have to be changed. You have got to become loyal to yourself. Because when you become loyal to yourself, then the God in you can trust you.
Whoa. Yay.
Through you being loyal to yourself. The God in you can trust you when you are loyal to yourself. And then when you are trustworthy to the God inside of you, then you can get an assignment. Well, here's your assignment. Since we know that you are devoted to you being yourself, because your assignment is really just based upon you being yourself, you admitting the frequency that is coded in your blueprint. And that will heal you. It will support the people around you in healing, and it will heal the earth. That is the most important thing. We are here to heal, help the earth heal. But we are currently a part of the problem.
Yeah.
So,
There is one
really,
question that somebody had.
mm-hmm.
She wants to know if you have studied other African spirituality outside of ancient Kemet.
I
Have you
have.
studied any? Okay.
I've studied some Yoruba and Palo, Palo, I don't know the full name of it, but I've studied two of the um African spiritualities that I have felt resonate with me. And the reason I landed where I landed was because I hmm, I wanted to be in everybody's in the dark ages right now. Right, let's just say it like that. Everybody's in the dark ages right now, and I wanted to really, I didn't want to go into environments where there was a lot of karmic stuff going on, a lot of unfinished business, a lot of, the church can be quite messy. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Tell
and
me about it.
right. And I'm not judging that because where do people heal but in places, but it's like in some ways we've sort of, I think there's a resurgence now, but that just wasn't the environment for me. It was ancient Kemet because of astrology. And when I started to really understand the relationship to the planets and how they live inside of us, and then I realized that most of the traditions, the African traditions, those deities are just names for the sun and Mars, and it's the same. So I was like, let me just go right to the source.
Yeah.
It's all a derivative of the same thing. Anything else?
I don't see another question. If you guys have a question, they're saying they're enjoying this conversation. This whole conversation is healing. And they're just doing a lot of affirming of things that you have said.
Okay. Okay, so the last thing that I'm gonna say, I'm gonna talk a little bit longer just about the rising of the divine feminine.
Okay.
Because we have been in this patriarchal system which has had us externalize everything. And externally, like everything in our world is a construct that was made up. None of this is real. The universe is a blank page. The meanings, we assign them. None of this is true. You know what I mean? I feel like that was one of the greatest things I learned when I was studying history in the Library of Congress. One day I was in the Library of Congress and I wanted to read something, and the librarian put on their gloves and went and bought out this big book, and I'm reading it, and I hear the voice in my head say, as you're reading about this man who is documenting him crossing the Potomac with George Washington, there are millions of other people in the world at this same time whose stories will never be told.
Yes.
It just blew my mind. I was like, oh, like there's so much that we don't have access to, but we've all sort of agreed to this construct that was created by what they call the founding fathers. And they they created a reality that was meant to serve them. So I always say here in America, we are inside of a white man's brain.
Whoa, we are.
This is a white man's brain. All these systems, all these, the financial system, the government system, the medical system, all of this is stuff made up by white men. That's it. It's it. And we could just as easily be in another reality with stuff made up by black women. You know what I mean? Like it's just, and so what we get to do now is get busy creating another reality because this one is dying. And what we
Yes.
need is the divine feminine to wake up inside of you because everything here comes from a woman. Every human being on the planet came from a woman. And she had to, invite somebody into her body. She had to say yes to the seed growing in her body. She had to say yes to that. And she agreed to that. And so every person here they exist because some woman somewhere said, I'm going to give you life. That is the power of woman. So it's very important for us to begin to understand as women how important it is for us to become loyal to ourselves and go inside and ask, what am I here to be and do? What is for me to be and do? So I see someone here saying, tell us more about what the planets represent in us. Absolutely. Um, okay. So every planet represents a different part of our humanity. And so the sun represents our personality, how we express ourselves. Um, the moon represents our inner world, how we feel. Mercury represents our minds and how we think. Venus represents our feelings, how we feel. That means taste, touch, sight, hearing. All of that is Venus. It's your sensory system. Um, and then there's Jupiter, which represents your faith, your ability. Faith is like sight or smell. We think faith, we talk about faith in these really religious, but faith, everything you do is done with faith because we don't know when this is over with. Everything is faith. Everything is the unknown. The world has convinced us otherwise, but everything is faith. So faith is a faculty. That is Jupiter. Mars is your will. It's the thing in you when you have to go use the bathroom and you cannot hold it. That is Mars saying Mars is your body, and it it's your vehicle. It's the thing that drives you through this earth realm. And if you didn't have the body, you wouldn't be able to evolve in this human experience. The body is the key, and that's Mars. Saturn is your karma. Everybody has karma, that's cause and effect. You inherit your karma from your family, from the family you're born into. So, whatever the narratives are about your family, that is a part of your experience. So, you see, that's how you see people. The mama got diabetes, the children got diabetes, because there is a behavior that is repetitive that creates these experiences. Or it could be with wealth or happiness. It's the same thing. There is a behavior that is repetitive that creates certain outcomes. That's Saturn. Then there's Uranus. Uranus is the planet that rules your connection to your higher self. your ability to connect to the God inside of you. Then there's Pluto, and Pluto is the engine. Pluto is the engine that grows a body from being an infant right out of your mother's womb and into a person who is 75 years old. That's Pluto, the engine that, that makes you become. It's this becoming. So every planet functions in a unique way inside of each person because we all have a different blueprint. I just gave you the general information.
Yes. And Peaceful Queen, let's see, what would be a good book reference regarding how spirituality was usurped from the matriarch to the patriarch?
Mm,
I don't know if it would be one book,
I
honestly.
know, right? It's not really.
Right. Uh-uh.
Um, but there is. You can look at a book called "The Great Cosmic Mother."
The
That's a
Great
book.
Cosmic Mother.
Mm-hmm. There's another book called I think it's "The Once Future Goddess."
Say that one again, Monique.
The Once Future Goddess. Let me actually get it. Hold on one second. I'm sorry, so I can make
Okay.
sure I'm putting the title correctly.
Okay. So, Leanne is sharing with us that her grandson has assigned she and her husband some planetary names. Grandma is called Saturn, and Papa is called Jupiter. Amazing.
Wow, that's really good. How old is he?
Leanne, type in how old is he? Oh, Valeria wants to know if you have a book, Moon Mama.
I do not. I do not have a
Not
book.
yet.
Not
Not
yet.
yet. It's coming.
Not yet. Yes.
I'm prophesizing. It is coming.
Okay. Thank you. Um, so yes, this book is called The Once and Future Goddess. I'm gonna type it in the thing.
Okay. The once and future goddess. And this child, Leanne's grandson, is only 4,
Wow.
and he loves the solar system.
Oh, that is
I was
amazing.
like that as a child. I had those astronomy books. I was just, living in a house of domestic violence. I was always alone, isolated, and it just made me so in tune with myself and the invisible helpers and the astronomy. Yeah.
Yes, 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 yes. I don't know how to get into this chat, so I'm not gonna try to figure that out. But yes, so,
Oh, Janice can put it in for you. Just say the name again, or somebody can put it in. They'll
okay.
type it in. See it.
The Once ONCE and Future Goddess.
The Once and Future Goddess. And who's
Yes.
it written by?
It is by Eleanor Godon. Eleanor Gadon.
Gadon, Eleanor. The Once and Future Goddess.
Yes. So
Okay.
that's what I have for tonight, everyone. I hope
That's a
that
lot. You've given us a lot. Okay, just a little bit of okay. Reverend
Mhm.
Emma wants to know what's the next step, and basically, we'll come back on because I
Mhm.
wanted to have that conversation when you and I were talking about how we can stop this racism and the things that are going on.
Yes, that's right. Absolutely. It's up to us to stop it. They can't stop it. So if we don't do it, it's not going to happen. And the only way to do it what I discovered was you have to use it. You got to use the energy. You have to outgrow it. You have to move it through your system. Um, so the next step is if you're interested, you can come book a reading with me and do a consult, and I can sit with you and explain your chart to you, help you understand yourself, help you understand the experiences you've had in your life, right? Like so in your chart, I can see everything. I can see who your parents were, how they were. I can see what your greatest challenges are, what your greatest strengths are. I can see your maturation, like when you'll mature out of these certain patterns. I can see all of those things. And so if you come and sit with me and do a consult, then I can really begin to support you in having like just waking up to who you really are. It's like alignment. It's like getting into alignment is what the reading will do, because most of us are just really malaligned. That's it. We're just out of alignment.
Exactly. And Joy, I don't know, you can't see her phone number is right on the page. I'll maybe we should put that in the chat. I don't know why you can't see it. It's right here. 323-243-7774. Text.
Yeah.
Text her. And then her website is healingwithmoonmama.com. Healingwithmoonmama.com. And she's good. I've had a lot of different astrology readings, and I used to do astrology myself. So I'm
Mhm.
letting you know she's good.
Thank you very much for that. Thank
Yep.
you.
Wow.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. And I know that our sisters are going to be sharing this, our brothers are going to be sharing this information because we need it.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. It is the key. It's the key to us coming home to ourselves. And we've been taught that it's evil, it's the devil, it's dark, and it's not. It's
Because
the
they
path.
didn't want us to have enough information to be able to control our own destinies.
That's right.
It was
That's
all
right.
about disempowering us. So
Absolutely.
now we waking up.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. So thank you
I
all
love
very much
you.
for allowing me to be here
Thank
and for
you.
being a part of this conversation. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
I appreciate you. I love you.
I love you too.
Okay, Janice, we ready to go out. We thank you, Most High God, for this opportunity to be together. We thank you, God, that this wisdom is landing right where it needs to land, and that we are a part of the awakening. We are a part ushering in this new dispensation, and for that we are grateful. Amen, Awoman, and Ashe. Thank you. Come to the gala. We still have a few tickets. No tickets will be at the door. We're going to be rocking it. I love you. Love you, Barbara, Debbie, Fran, Valeria, Gloria, Denise, everybody. Love y'all. And thank y'all for supporting this ministry. It's through your support that we're able to do what we do, and we greatly appreciate you. Love you, Reverend Nikki.